go.
Carolyn,
You're
how you
live.
doing?
Hi, how are you guys?
Well,
Awesome, Carolyn.
Case has had the chance to go to the bathroom 3 times, and I just been standing here for almost 8 hours. So,
Oh my God.
I'm
If I have
already
to,
doing the dance.
pee, I'm getting up.
Push
I'm
through,
peeing.
dude. You got it.
Like, I don't even care. It says unmute myself, but clearly you can hear me. So.
We can.
You're good. We can hear you.
Good.
Okay.
We can see you on there. Yeah. So how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
It's been so long since we spoke.
Oh my gosh, I know. What, yesterday?
I know, right?
I already forgot. What happened? So funny. Well,
seriously, I don't even remember what happened an hour ago. So my memory's horrible.
That's the way I am.
Really?
Yes. I take that as a sign of being present. You could go. I think it's a sign of being present. So I like to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on the show and the summit.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, you come highly recommended from many people. And so it was really good. Now, it's funny because I've spoken with you a few times and we go down rabbit holes and we've got 45 minutes here before our last speaker. So but it's not your fault, it's my fault. We go down the rabbit holes because it's like crazy. But I want to talk to you about your people can go to your website, which is thenextworldmedium.com, right? And they can check you out and they can look up your information. But I really want you to give us an idea of, okay, number one, because I love so many of the things you said to me in just our previous conversations, I really resonate with, and I think a lot of the people watching will as well. And, we've got over 500 people registered for this. They're coming in and out all day. So those that missed parts of this, they'll be able to watch it later.
No pressure.
No pressure
at all.
You better deliver, lady.
I know, right?
Step up your game, Carolyn.
So anyway,
I don't even go outside these days. So
well, it is I want you to explain to all of us how you got into this work, and then what was your experience? A lot of people had near-death experiences, others didn't. Some just had psychic phenomena, some had spiritually transformative experiences, that's a really hard term to say. And then you were very reluctant because you were always like, no, I'm not going to promote myself. Don't call me a medium. So I want to hear about that story because I believe there are people out there on this summit today that are probably sitting there going, oh yeah, I get that too. I get messages, but I don't want to do it. And then when you decided, what was the work and the journey after that? And I'll keep prompting you, so I'll give you the first one. Tell us a little bit about yourself so everyone that hasn't met you gets a good flavor.
Okay. So growing up, I saw spirits and had psychic experiences. However, it wasn't until my NDE with meningitis in 2011 that I experienced a bombshell transition into full-blown mediumship. So that's when my abilities were magnified by like 100 folds or more. I just had kind of like a boundless ability to connect between this world and the next. And it's a really lengthy story, so I don't want to get into the whole thing today. Okay. But I had been miraculously healed from meningitis from my deathbed on 11/11/11, which is an extremely significant number. Wow, I found out later. But
wait a minute, I'm going to say something to you about this tree. Yeah. So Case is big on 11/11. Okay. He's really good at that. He talks about that. But the only reason you called me back, you told me, was because my phone number had so many 8s in it.
That is why.
I wasn't going to call you back. I was like, oh, thank God I had 8s.
So I'm not a numerology person per se. I really don't study it. I don't, people will come to me and be like, oh my God, what does this mean, Carolyn? I'm like, I'm Googling it. I'm like, hey girl, this is what it means. So I'm just going to be totally transparent with you. I really don't know what it means, in numerology or anything. I just feel very close to certain numbers myself, and they ignite different feelings within me. You know what I mean? And they have become signs for me from my loved ones in spirit. So 888 is one of mine that just comes up constantly for me. I'll be driving, and every time I get on the road, this is no joke, every time I get on the road, I have a license plate in front of me that'll say, it's always 3 numbers, right? So it's but I get 333 a lot.
Yeah.
111 a lot and 888 a lot. Lately, I've been getting like 444 as well. So it started out that I just was noticing these patterns in front of me because they were so in my face. It was like every single time I pulled out, it was like 111, 111, everywhere, you guys. And then it was like 888, 888. And then I started liking 000. And I really don't even know why I like 00, but I do. I like these patterns of threes. Okay. And 3 was my number as a kid growing up. I loved the number 3. There was 3 of us girls. I'm like a daughter of 3 other, siblings that are female. And so that was a big deal. And I was born on the 3rd month and on the 31st. There's like a ton of things with 3s that work for me. Like I'm an artist, or I was, and there's triptychs. And so I like art in 3s. There's like, I'm a musician too. And there's usually like 3 paragraphs to a song. If you listen to it with like a bridge and a chorus and whatever, there's structure and everything's in 3s. So obviously that's like a very important and significant number across the board. Right. And it just resonated with me since I was little. I don't know why. Somebody was always like, what's your favorite number? What's your favorite color? And I was like 3, and then it changed after my NDE because I was basically given my life back on 11/11/11. So I call that my rebirth day. And that has become my number. But then I realized it was so many other people's number too. I was like, wait a minute, this was my number. But I started seeing it like consistently after my NDE. A long story. I don't want to like get long-winded here. But I had like this silly clock that I bought from an art store, and it was a flip clock, and it would freeze. It's like every number would flip, right? One at a time, and I thought it was so cool. It was battery operated, and it started freezing on 11/11, and I'm like, damn thing's broken. So I like smack it around and I like take out the batteries and put them back in. And even though I can see for other people, even though I was getting messages for everybody else that were so crystal clear, for me, I'm such a dummy. I was like, what the hell? It's like they're smacking me upside my head and they're like, hello, like we're giving you signs. And I'm like, duh. It's like I'm just sitting here trying to switch out batteries. So that's kind of what happened here. And until the numbers were flying off, like shooting off the shelf, like the ones would pop off of that clock and hit me, literally. And I'm like, oh. And it wasn't until Facebook, there was a message on Facebook, or a memory, on Facebook that popped up, and it had the date of my release from Frederick Hospital here in Milwaukee. And it said, I noticed the date, and I was like, oh shit, like that's probably really significant. I'm like, that's why all the 11/11s, right? It's them trying to say like, hello, we're here, we're with you, you're on the right path, you're doing the right things. I didn't need to look it up to know that, so before that, I was posting 11/11. Every time I'd open my phone, it would say 11/11. And my dad would joke on there, my stepdad, and he'd be like, well, it's 11/11 twice a day. He's like totally right brain. He doesn't believe any of this stuff. You know what I mean? He's like, whatever. Like he probably thinks I'm a total flake. And so he would just make his silly comments and I'd ha ha ha, and everybody would be like, what's up with 11/11? I'm like, I don't know. And all of a sudden I started, like, people started migrating to me that were 11/11ers, like other people who had a thing with it. There was a book written about it. I thought about titling my book 11/11. I thought I was so clever. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's already been done. So this is just kind of like, I don't know. It's a fun thing. I don't know. And you have the 888. I started getting those messages really strong from spirit. And just like anybody else who's not a medium, I look this stuff up and I'm like, oh, so what are you guys trying to tell me? Right. I know what I feel, but I don't go to a medium and I don't seek out psychics or mediums or anything like that. So I never would go to somebody and ask them for messages for me. I just trust my intuition and I look stuff up and I go from there.
So how did you make the transition after your NDE that really opened this up to becoming a medium?
How did I make the transition?
Yeah.
Oh boy. It happened while I was in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was, my mom had come to my bedside in spirit. She was passed over for a couple of years prior to me getting meningitis. And she came to me in spirit and she told me that I had meningitis, essentially. It's a better story than this, but I don't want to take up all the time because there's so many interviews I have to tell the full length story. Okay. So essentially she came to me and she told me when I couldn't even speak and I couldn't, I was projectile vomiting and then passing out. And I mean, I was very, very sick.
Mhm.
And she came to me and I saw her and she told me in my ear what I had. I didn't know what meningitis was. I had never heard of it. I had no idea. And in the ER, 8 hours into being there and having the doctors baffled about what I was dealing with a temperature of nearly 104, and they couldn't, figure out what I had going on. They had infectious disease there, or they had called upon them. They put me in, isolation. And I had told them, I said, I have meningitis. I said meningitis. And the nurse leaned in and said, what did you say? And I told her again. And she's like, oh my God, we never thought of that. And they tapped my spine. And it came up conclusive a couple days later that, yes, in fact, I had 2 strains, heart stent, all this stuff going on. I mean, I was like really out of it. I was on morphine, for a little bit. I asked them to take me off of it so I could feel the pain so I could fight. I was still on Tylenol, so that helped. But during that time of being in and out of consciousness, I was crossing back and forth between both worlds. And I was connecting with people that I had never seen before. They didn't belong to me, is what I would say. These spirits didn't belong to me. They belonged to, nurses and doctors and things like that were coming in and out of my room. So people that were calling me that I had never known. I mean, I was getting phone calls from people that I didn't know and like wishing me well. And I was like, this is amazing. And I just felt like this immense love for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to, relay the messages from spirit around me to them because I assumed I'm dying. Like, this is normal. I'm dying. So let me give this to you before I die, and it seemed pretty legit. And everybody would cry and freak out. And I'm not looking you up. Like, I'm dying on I'm on a freaking deathbed right now. Like, I'm not interested, And anyway, and so at one point I crossed over and I was in front of a committee of people. I don't know how many there were. I say like 30 because I just don't know. It looked about that to me, like a choir. And there was one speaker in the front and she was female, silver hair. They were all wearing white. And she was talking to the guy next to her and I couldn't hear her. I couldn't understand her. And then she looked back at me and she gave me a moment to speak, but she just gave me a moment to speak, but it didn't come out of her mouth. It came from here. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I received it and I just said, please let me stay for my son. Very matter of fact, no emotion. Just let me stay for my son, please. I was a single mom. I had a son to raise, he was very young. And my parents are both gone. They're both deceased. So I was what he had, you know what I mean? And that's the only request I made. She spoke to the guy again, looked back at me, and she said without moving her lips, if you do this work for us. I didn't know what it was and I didn't care. And so I said, yeah, yes.
I'll do it.
And that was it. It was like legitimately like I bartered for my life, basically.
So you got a choice to come back, but you didn't get a choice what you were going to do when you got back.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, anything to be here with him, It's like at that point, yeah, I didn't care. I didn't even have that foresight. There wasn't any thought to it. It was just so a matter of fact. Like, it was really boring, actually. I mean, it's not boring, but it's like, there's nothing really exciting about it. I've heard that some people like fly on the wings of butterflies and all this. I was just like, I saw my ass. I saw the back of me naked in a nightgown, in like a hospital gown. I saw my bare, and I was like, ooh, so, and then it was just really a matter of fact. So then they went through me, they came into a ball of light and they went through my feet, up through my head, and it was done. I was completely healed. The doctors couldn't explain it. The neurologist that was in charge of my case was baffled. He came in the very next morning. So 11, 12, 11, because it had happened on 11, 11, 11. And they were like, we're going to discharge you today, but he still needed to see me. So he came in and, he says, how are you looking at me with the lights on? Like, how are you physically able to speak with me? And I'm going, well, you're the doctor. Like, I don't know, follow the light. I'm like, okay, who's the president? I don't care. I don't know, like just all these questions. And he said, I heard your mother told us that you had meningitis. Like, I'd love to thank her. And I just said, go ahead. And he was like, well, what do you mean? Like, where is she? And I said, all around you. She's passed over. And that's when he kind of put his head down and just smiled and shook his head. And he's like, I don't think he knew what to say. He was just like, what? And so I'm like, I don't know. He just was baffled. And he said, Carolyn, there's some things that can't be explained. And this is one of them. And I said, isn't it normal though? Because I was dying. Like, don't you guys get this all the time? I don't feel like I'm that special or unusual. Like, this has to be pretty normal for you. And he goes, no, it's really not that common. And he said, it's happened, but it's not that common. So I guess, now coming out of that, I didn't know what I had agreed on. I had like kind of put the whole like talking to nurses and other people's loved ones behind me. I was just like happy to be in the sunshine and have my head out the window like a dog, on the way home. I was like, and that's all I cared about, just getting back to my kid, but it's interesting because I went home and I was still on IV antibiotics, and I had a nurse coming every day for a week. And there were a couple times where it was like something went wrong. One time there was like an air bubble inside of the IV. And I called the nurse line. I'm like, oh shit, this can't be good, right? Because I'm connected to it and it's going into my vein.
Right.
And I know at least that much, that air bubbles going into your vein is not a good thing, right? So I'm like, not that big of a dummy. And so I don't even remember, but I kind of like stepped outside of myself and I fixed it really quick. And I still don't know how I fixed it. I don't know what I did. And the nurse arrived as quick as she could. And she's like, oh, it's gone. How did you fix it? And I was like, I don't know. And so they stepped in and helped me there. And yeah, just crazy stuff. They just kept me alive for some reason. And it wasn't until about a week after I was home that I got to take my first bath. And during that bath, my friend called from years ago, and her grandma came through in spirit. And I could see my friend's apartment, her new apartment that I'd never been in. Sorry, that's her calling now. How ironic is that?
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I'd seen that and just kind of was in a different space. I started asking her questions that were unusual, and they were all evidential. Has this been being moved on your bookshelf all the time? Your grandma's there. You've been smelling her hat. This is what her hat looks like. This is how she passed. It was just very specific. And she's bawling on the phone going, oh my God, like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm just rolling with it,
Okay.
And afterwards I was completely freaked out. I'm not going to lie. I was terrified. And then had a visit from somebody telling me this is what I agreed to. And I said, okay. And from there, it was like, I worked at, Victoria's Secret, and I worked at Family Christian Bookstore, and people would come in, and like every handful of people that I helped, they would have somebody attached to them, and I would just deliver the message.
So for those of you that didn't actually hear what Carolyn said, she worked at
I know
at a Christian bookstore during the day, Victoria's Secret at night. I think there's
I heard that.
Like, what is the dichotomy in that?
That's a whole other long story. I can't. It's just it would take up too much of your time, but none of it was by accident. Like, oh, everything in my life has been a synchronicity since then, and nothing's been by accident. And it was really, really ironic and funny. Like, I was literally like selling bras and fitting lingerie and then selling Bibles, and don't judge me, you guys, okay? I know it's like so wrong. I feel like I'm being sacrilegious here or something, like it's terrible, but
Well,
it's not.
people have to
Everybody
wear
needs
underwear.
underwear, okay?
Yeah, everyone
And
needs underwear.
thongs, okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and in the fitting room, you know, I'd be working with somebody and like something would like draw me to them, their tattoo or their necklace or just anything. And I'd get kind of like mesmerized, like a creep, and I'd be like, you know, looking at their necklace. I'm like, wow, you know, it drew me in. I felt like I was really bug-eyed at that time. I've like really pulled that back some. Like I feel like my eyes were popping out of my head all the time. But I would just ask them, you know, if there was somebody that wanted to come through and speak with you from the other side, would you want to hear a message from them? And every time it was yes. So I wouldn't know anything about these people, clearly they're strangers, and all of this evidential information would come through, and I became known as like the Victoria's Secret medium. And people would come there and be like, are you the Victoria's Secret medium? I'm like, oh my God, no.
No, I'm the Bible store medium.
Yeah, girl, do you want a Bible with your bra? So it's just like,
we're having a sale. Oh, that's so
oh my gosh. But in the Bible store, wow, like I met so many amazing people in both places. Let me tell you, just the best people I've ever met. And so open-minded, like I couldn't believe it. In family Christian, I thought everybody would think I was like the devil or something, because it's not accepted in some religions, you know, and it's taught to be afraid, you know, be afraid of this, like move away from it, like they're gypsies or they're this or they're that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but it's like people who would come in, they were, you know, grieving loss and stuff, and they wouldn't tell me who they were, you know, grieving or whatever. It's like I would just see them. There was one time, go ahead.
Question for you. When was the first time you accepted fair financial exchange for a reading for somebody?
You ask really good questions, but they're all so long. Because the first time, it took me so long to get there to charge. And I know everybody's probably like, yeah, right, she charges so much, and I do, because I'm worth it. Okay. But what I'm saying, no, that's not why. It's because I only do one reading a day. I can't physically do more than that. Sometimes when I go into a reading, and I'll get to your question, but sometimes when I do a reading, I do medical readings also. And when I do medical readings, I'll explain that in a minute. They can go on for, you know, a couple of hours, and they're so intense, and I will be so drained afterwards. I'll want to like sleep for days, and I get headaches, I get migraines. There's a lot of physical, I don't know, repercussions or side effects from this. Right. And it's like, people don't get that. They just think, well, she's like rolling, me and other people probably, they think, oh, they're just like trying to monopolize and get all this money and take advantage of people. But really, I'm just trying to raise my kid. I make as much as a school teacher. That's my honest to God. That's me. And I can't speak for anybody else, but that's like how I do it. I can't do them back to back because I go in so deep. The first time I read for somebody and I charged is a really long story. So I don't want to, again, we only have so much time. I don't even know if I can get into that today. I'd love to at some point.
But how long did it take, like, from being the Victoria's Secret medium to the I'm charging you for a session medium?
2 years, 5 years?
It took about 2.5, 3 years. So I was doing oh yeah.
Totally reluctant.
So I did readings every day on the street, and you know, I would try to leave work and take a walk in the forest to take my lunch break, and I would run into somebody, and I was like, no, like I just need a break. Like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like I didn't want it, you know, and I would run into people, and it would be because it's a power and a you know, it's power greater than myself.
And you signed contracts too. You made the agreement to do it.
And that's what, you know what, oddly, like I honestly, there were so many times, you guys, that I would get headaches and I'd be freaked out. And my friends were like, you're crazy. I thought I was like, okay, I know this is real. I'm getting all this validation, right? But I must be crazy. Something happened when I had meningitis. I went back to a psychologist, psychiatrist. I went to my family practitioner. I went to a cancer doctor. I said, scan my head. I'm like, please tell me why this is happening. I went through the whole 9 yards. I'm practical. I literally never went to a medium before I became one. Yeah, like it's
amazing.
not something that I sought out.
Had so much proof that you were.
That I had a clean bill of health, that I was sane. I'm like, are you insane that I'm sane? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry, you guys. I swear, I've been holding back this whole time.
You're allowed to fucking cuss on this show.
Awesome. Yes. So
we just get them all out right away.
Well, I was gonna say, like, there's so many incidences where it was like I wanted to stop, and I thought, if I stop, they're gonna kill me, because I agreed to this. And I literally got that in my head. I was like, okay, so I agreed to this and they saved me. So then if I stop, do I get killed? Do I drop dead? I was really worried. You guys, I legitimately was worried about this. Like, I'm not even joking with you. So I spoke with somebody who helped me in this prana breathing class that I took. And he helped me by saying, like, I broke down with him. And I just said, he goes, I know that you see things, I know that you're different. And he's like, you need to charge for it. You need to do this work. You need to charge for it. You agreed to do this. You agreed to come here for your son, come back and raise him. How are you going to raise him if you're not making any money and you're just giving yourself away and your energy away? I'm like, okay, wait, that actually makes sense. And he's like, energy and money are both exchanges.
Yes.
They're exchanges. Yes. And it's okay and it's fair, and it wasn't until I heard that it resonated with me. And I thought, that has a lot, that feels right. That's okay with me. That's okay then. Because before that, I thought I should be doing this because, like, if I can see it, I should give it to everybody. It's not fair for me to like I shouldn't withhold it, which I still don't do. I charge, and I run into people all the time, and I'm not like, hey, give me $50 for that. Like, I just go and tell people, and people come to my house to work on, like, to plant a tree or to do something, with their business or whatever. Like, they'll come over, and I don't know, I have like lawn care people for a little bit, I had some people doing some stuff, and they'd come over and they'd be like, oh, you're a medium, like, do you see anybody for me? Everybody says that. And I'm sure people watching this get that too, if they're also practicing. It's like, oh, what do you see for me? Who's around me? And they almost like are they kind of like pick at you, they're like, sure, a medium. And it's really funny. And I know this is totally an ego, so I'm sorry for being so human right now, but I do say to them, what's coming through, and it blows their mind. Like, I had this tree guy come over, and he asked me, what do you see for me? And big guy, and I'm like, you don't want to hear, like, don't ask me, like, don't ask for what you don't want to hear. And his grandpa showed up, and I'm like, well, he's this tall, he died like this, you buried him in this outfit, he doesn't like it, like, he thought you should have buried him in this and this, and you were having this conversation with your daughter the other day, and holy shit, do you kill bears? And he's like, what? And I'm like, do you hunt bears? And he goes, not anymore. He's like, why? I'm like, well, because there's 3 circling you. So I let him know that those bears are there for him when he crosses over. So learn that from me, y'all.
I love that. Like, so that's now that is evidential mediumship, because you're giving the evidence to somebody that only they would know. And you called yourself an evidential medium, which I love. And I know because of time, I want to talk about this. You do evidential mediumship. You have worked with police departments on investigations. And one thing we talked about that you really wanted to focus on today was one of your big passions right now is medical mediumship. So you want to, we're going to let everyone know how they can get a hold of you. Go, nextworldmedium.com, and we'll definitely get them there, and we'll send out a follow-up. But talk to me about the medical mediumship, because that's your passion that right now, that's more of your focus. So let's hear about that.
Right. So I'm going to read you a little something, be boring, but I'm now both nationally and internationally known as Carolyn Clapper, the Next World Medium. I'm both an evidential and a medical medium, and I've located missing people, both deceased and alive. I've found illnesses and ailments in many, which have all then been validated and confirmed by medical doctors. These findings have saved people's lives, helped to prolong others, and have helped in quality of life. and I think that's very important, is to know that if you come to me, it's not always going to mean that I can save your life, but there's definitely going to be information that comes through that can help you to have a better quality of life or prolong, or to have information.
Right.
And information is power. Okay. Medical mediumship is very different from medical intuition, which is vastly known as being medical intuits. And I hate it when people do that, but I'm doing it like 5 times today. So, okay. So anyways, so I used to call myself a medical intuit, and then I realized that that term was being abused. It's being very overused. It just did not fit. Maybe I shouldn't say abused. It just didn't fit into what I was doing. Okay.
Gotcha.
A medical intuit, in my opinion, is someone who's able to intuitively sense, see, or feel a potential medical issue in another, and just in somebody else, in a very general or non-specific or broad manner, such as sensing cancer, a leg injury, headaches, chronic headaches, even something in general, in the general body area, like I'm feeling something on your back, right? Or I'm feeling like you had something go on in your head. Were you in an accident or something? Like that would be a medical intuit. Okay. Though this information could be really correct and accurate, and it could help somebody to feel like you're better at your job. Okay. It's not really practical information. It's like they already know this about themselves. Right. Okay. And it doesn't help in diagnosing or treating an individual. Medical mediumship, however, is extremely specific, with no help from a client, no knowledge of their medical history or current medical issues, without being in front of them, looking at them, not over Skype, not over anything, not having a picture. I'm able to go through my client's body with the assistance of 5 doctors and spirits, who then relay all the information to me regarding past, present, and future trauma, down to a cellular level, everything from leaking in specific vertebrae of the spine, to deficiencies, to mental illness or emotion, trauma that's happened in the past and where it stems from, to cancer and where it is, and staging, and potential, and I'm just saying cancer, but anything, Lyme's disease, weird. I get all the weird, I shouldn't say weird, but it's just like the really tough cases. I get a lot of tough cases because it's after they've exhausted the entire Western medicine practice, because they can't, and they're in dire strait, and they come to me just hoping, because nobody wants to come to me until they've exhausted everything else. They're like, I don't want to spend that kind of money on, what if she's a complete quack? And I get it, because I would do the same thing. But yeah, I can see like their diet, if they've been misdiagnosed. I mean, levels and levels. People leave me with like 10, 12 pages of notes about medical alone. And that's not unusual. I always recommend that anyone receiving a medical reading from me, that they follow up with their medical doctors afterwards to confirm all of the findings, all of them, every single one. Mark them off as you go along, because you will be. Okay.
And that's because you're in energy healthcare, the field, but you're doing it through the window of being a medical medium, and you can't write prescriptions or give a diagnosis.
No way. I don't have any. I have no medical background. The only thing I've taken is pathology and physiology. I was a massage therapist in Eastern and Western modalities. That was back in my early 20s. I no longer practice. I forgot most of that information anyway. If I'm not talking about it or using it every day, the dialogue, and after everything I've been through, especially with meningitis, a lot of those, the dialect is gone, the terms. So what I want to say is my level of accuracy is really, really high. I've been mentioned in medical files and in people's like I've had clients who've ended up in the ER and called me. Yeah. And then I'm on the phone with them, on the speaker with them, and emergency doctors, and everything that I'm telling them to do is accurate, and they follow it, which is great. That means that we're making headway in this field. I have a lot of doctors and surgeons, really amazing surgeons, as my clients, and I've helped to find their ailments in them, and then they go and get it done. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, so doctors frequently consult me regarding difficult cases needing help in diagnostics. And I have so many testimonials and, that are worth checking out on my website and on Facebook. And then I also have a few interviews that go deeper in depth, like my interview with Brian Smith from Grief to Growth, and then Trisha Barker, and also Grant Cameron, where we also get into UFOs. So there's a lot of parallels.
There's a lot of UFOs in there.
Why not, right? Throw the kitchen sink at it, you know? Yeah, why not?
Well, thank you for that, because what we've done is we've put your website down in the chat so everyone can see it, and then when we send this out, everyone will get that. And I have to tell you, it's refreshing to meet somebody such as yourself and to have a few really good conversations, and to know that while you are doing this, you're just so grounded, and you're no BS either. Like, you're just like down to earth. You're like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna wear feathers and headdresses and tie-dye and walk around like you're just like, no, you don't like my personality. This is it. This is what I do. This is what I was told to come and do. Here I am.
Sorry.
I'm gonna cuss a little bit at you, and I'm not, but that's the thing. We all want to have somebody we can relate to, instead of somebody that's all high and mighty telling us what we need or to do and acting like they're such an authority.
And that's just it, is like, oh, I didn't flip you off. That was my pointer finger. That's so right. I'm just kidding. Just joking. No, I agree with you. I think like when people sell themselves really hard, and I'm not trying to not sell myself, okay? Like, this is me trying to sell myself. Just kidding. This is me whoring myself off as a medium right now, but not at all. Not at all. No, I think that when people are so confident in anything, I'm like skeptical. I'm the most skeptical medium. Like, legitimately, like, stuff would come through me and I'm just like, I know it's right. But I love having that confirmation right away too. I mean, like, I don't know, I'm skeptical. That's just how I am. So I appreciate skepticism. I hate cynicism. I think that sucks. So that's just closed-mindedness. But skepticals, good for you. Good for you for questioning, for doing your homework, keep questioning. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way we evolve. When people stop questioning and when people stop having any level of discernment, that's when society stops advancing. That's when consciousness stops advancing. So congratulations to everybody who thinks I suck and that they think that I'm a total fluke. Like, seriously, like that this field is a flop and like nobody's, that we're all fakes. Because then if you care enough, you'll dive into it and you may actually blow your own mind. You know what I mean? Your mind might be blown. You may actually change your perspective. And that's what this is about. It's about reaching one person and then that person reaching another person. I'm all word of mouth. I hated doing interviews for so long. There's so many that I don't do, and it wasn't about that for me. It's like, there's been shows that have come and gone. It's just, it's not about that. It's about connecting with everybody that was meant to be put in my path. I believe that if somebody was meant to be put in my path, I'm going to learn from them, and they're going to learn from me. It's a give and take. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to be telling them what's what. Like, nobody is the expert in this field. Nobody. Also, on another note, I wanted to say, you wanted me to give something to people today to like kind of help them advance their own abilities. And I don't think that I can give that to you guys. I really don't. And I'll tell you why. And it's just because I'm honest with you. I don't think that it's something, well, it was handed to me, but I almost died. So, it's not like that couldn't happen to you, okay? But it happens, sometimes people get knocked over the head and then all of a sudden they see differently. You know what I mean? Things happen or you'll be through some tragic event and you could end up, connecting in a bigger way. People lose their children or a loved one or a soulmate, and it may just hurt so much that they start just developing on their own. They might start recognizing signs more. I would say, pay attention to signs, pay attention to all the signs that feel right to you. Listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. That's where spirit's talking to you. You may not see them, but you need to listen, you need to see, you need to watch, you need to pay attention. Just pay attention, don't live like this, live like that. like open your eyes up. You know, some of the stuff that people get so excited about right now, like, oh my God, putting your feet on the earth with no shoes on, it's called grounding now, or earthing. And it's like, man, I've been barefoot my whole life and everybody teased me for it. Nobody was like, oh my God, you're so cool and
You're
like
so
so forward, like you're totally grounding right now. And there's all these words now that are like just stuff that people like me do just intuitively, that we just do it, right? Like it's just us. I say, if you want to be more like us, then, you know, take your shoes off, put them in the dirt, stop worrying about what people are going to think of you. You know what I mean? Listen to your gut. There's certain things that people do saging. For instance, I sage. I mean, I don't know why I started saging. I don't read books on mediumship. I don't talk to any mediums, except for I'm the medium of mediums. But I don't consult with them for myself. I would like to at some point. I just haven't found one that I really want to consult with that doesn't already know me. So it's a little tough. But that being said, you know, some of us have rituals that you were saying, you know, that Adam was saying, like we don't need all that kind of fluff, which is true, but it is helpful sometimes. So like, don't totally disregard it, because after I became,
yeah, if you need it and it makes you feel happy and it puts you into the zone, do it.
I don't know if I need it. I just feel like some things help. Like sage is scientifically proven to change positive ions into negative ions. There's research done on it. It does facilitate it. So do salt lamps. You know, I mean, maybe you can clear a room by farting. Like, I don't know, but for me, it's safe. So I sage all the time, right? And people who are angry around me, I joke with them and I'll sage them just for fun, just because it's funny and it makes people laugh. So it always lightens the air, no matter what. So I say saging helps before and after, but you have to do it right. You definitely can't just light some sage and think it's going to take care of itself. You've got to have a ritual. You've got to have an intent behind it and energy. Go around the room, you know, get every corner, every nook and cranny, and push it out a window or a door. Don't just like leave it shut. There's so many people who leave it shut, like their house closed. Yeah. They're like, I don't know, it's not working. And I'm like, well, you just like pushed it down into your like basement bathroom or something. Like, what are you doing? Now, that said, I don't really think that any of us have the power to kick spirit out. So that's just me.
I love it.
People are going to argue with me. People are going to be like, she's crazy. You can totally do that.
People also, I don't. Okay, I'm going to her website. I like this. I like this chick.
No, I think like it's annoying for people, because it's like, I think people want to be like, oh my God, well, you can totally get rid of this and this and this. And I'm like, maybe not so much. I see so much that's like also spooky. Like I'll go into places that are seriously like haunted, you know? Oh, I did it again, you guys. I hate myself now. Anyways, I'll go into places like that and I can see some entities sometimes that aren't human and what's happened there and who dwelled there before, and it all comes back accurate. So people will go research it and do this deep research and it all comes back accurate, and they're like, oh my God, and it freaks them out.
Hey, that's the evidence. That's the accuracy. I'd love that. Carolyn, thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
we got our last keynote speaker in the panelist room where you were waiting so kindly for us. And I want to just thank you. It's been really fun, and we will talk more after this series is over. And then, you know, everyone, you know where to find her. We put it down in the little comment section. There's a place for your Facebook events, and your website is on there. So you'll be able to.
Thank you both so much.
Pleasure to meet you, Carolyn.
Awesome talking with you guys. Thank you for all the listeners, and I'm so sorry if I offended any of you.
Dude, the people
or anything, like I'm sorry.
The people that watch my channel are going to dig you.
Yes.
So
good.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're here to offend.
Nice. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.
Keep growing.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please make sure you smash the subscribe button in the middle of this screen and then watch the next video for some more Masters, Mediums, Mystics from Energy Healthcare Connection YouTube channel.